So I know that Kiddush clubs are a perennial issue that are on the rabbinic mind. And I actually think I found a connection to this week's Parsha about that. Vayelchu shloshes yamim bamidbar v'lo matzu mayim. So the Jews traveled through the wilderness for 3 days and they did not find water. Of course, Chazal Bavakama Pei Beis Amud Aleph classically interpret, as we see many times through rabbinic literature, that of course water, Torah are the same thing, ein mayim ela Torah. And so we see from there that we're not supposed to go more than 3 days without communal Torah reading. Hence we get Monday, Thursday, and Shabbos. An interesting question that is addressed by my new favorite weekly shir sefer I use, the Sefer Chavetzelas HaSharon, which I've been working on adapting some of it into English each week, asks the following question based on the Birchas Shmuel and many Achronim raise: is the obligation of Torah reading a communal obligation? Is it a chovas hatzibor? Or is it a chovas hayachid incumbent upon each and every individual? Now, there's a number of nafkaminas that I'm not going to take you through right now that range from, well, what if 10 men have not heard Kriyas Torah yet? What if you want to transport a Sefer Torah to where there's a minion that hasn't heard it yet? What about people getting aliyos multiple times in Vizos HaBracha and Simchas Torah? Is that appropriate? Each and every one of those cases actually has a different psak based on whether you conceptualize Kriyas HaTorah, public Torah reading, as a actual public obligation of the tzibor, or whether we view it as incumbent upon every individual, and it just so happens that we need a minyan as a prerequisite to fulfill that individual obligation. But to me, the most striking nafkamina comes up, it's suggested by Rechai and Pelagi, and I'm sure others as well, that one of the most practical nafkaminas that comes out from this is whether an individual needs to hear all of Torah reading. Let's say one of our congregants or ourselves in the middle of Torah reading needs to take an impromptu restroom break, and of course they wait till the end of the aliyah, till the Torah is covered, being gavra legavra, then they go out, and when they come back in, they realize they missed an aliyah or two. Should they then have to go to the later minyan at shul so that they can hear the rest of it? While the Bir Halacha seems to assume it's a chovas hayachid, since the majority opinion is that Kriyas HaTorah is a chovas hatzibor, there'd be no need to run after and hear the rest of Torah reading, because as long as there was a minyan, there was a representatives of the tzibor that were fulfilling the obligation of Kriyas HaTorah, then the tzibor, as a singular unit, has fulfilled that obligation. And another striking nafkamina that comes out from here is whether one can read something else during Torah reading. Aside from the optics, just from a halachic standpoint, certainly if there's an individual obligation and I'm reading the local newspaper while the guy's learning Torah, I'm clearly not hearing Kriyas HaTorah. But if it's a communal obligation, so then some Rishonim actually believe that there isn't a formal prohibition to read something else over the course of Torah reading. Now, this is great on a halachic level. Of course, there's the hashkafic and there's also the political and policy element to figuring this out, where we sometimes have to ask ourselves, well, if he's not going to be reading something else during Torah reading, is he going to be talking during Torah reading? If he's not taking a break during Torah reading for the schnapps, is he going to be inside and making a bigger disruption? And these are kind of cheshbonos that each and every one of us has to figure out on our own. I certainly don't presume to have many years of wisdom to be able to opine on this. But the one thing that I would suggest is, as always, just understanding where the halacha ends and where the hashkafa and policy begin and continue forth from there. And so understanding the whole nature of the sugya, that most authorities believe that Kriyas HaTorah is a chovas hatzibor, at least on a halachic level, gives us a little bit more of an understanding of flexibility, but certainly I put it in your capable hands as Rabbanim Chashuvim with much more experience and much more seasoned than myself to make determinations with the halachic knowledge and with the many years of experience to figure out what works best for our own individual kehilos. And with that, wishing you a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you for listening.